That Sober Guy podcast contains adult content, merciless truth, and emotional nudity. Listener discretion is advised.
I'm Shane Raymer. You're listening to That Sober Guy podcast, and we help people stay sober. If it's your first time listening, welcome. So glad you're here today. If you're a long-time listener, welcome back. It's great to be here with you as well. I got a quick question for you. Are you an entrepreneur at heart? Are you an entrepreneur at heart? There's a reason why I ask that. Many of us in sobriety are, including myself. We're artists, we're musicians. We have that entrepreneurial spirit. Let me ask you this. What if you had a 17-step roadmap to help you get started on your entrepreneur journey? And our guest today is John Lee Dumas, otherwise known as JLD. He's been a big inspiration of mine, of That Sober Guy podcast. It's one of the first podcasts I listened to before I launched this platform here. Let me tell you a little bit about John. He's the host of the award-winning podcast Entrepreneurs on Fire, with over 100 million listens of his 3,000 plus episodes. JLD has turned Entrepreneurs on Fire into a media empire. Man, he gets a ton of listens, over 1 million every month, 7 figures of net annual revenue, 8 years in a row. And he has his first traditionally published book. It's called The Common Path to Uncommon Success. It's the modern day version of Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. It's actually one of the first entrepreneur style books that I read back in the day, called Think and Grow Rich. Definitely highly recommend checking that out if it interests you. But John has kind of laid out, he has laid out a 17-step roadmap to financial freedom and fulfillment. And you might be going, well, what the hell does this have to do with sobriety? Let me tell you it does. And we talk about this. A lot of it has to do with fulfillment, with purpose, financial freedom. And like I mentioned before, I know I have that creative spirit, that entrepreneurial spirit, that artist spirit. And I know because I talk to so many people in recovery who share that same fire inside to create stuff, to create things, to help people, to serve people, and to be part of something unique, something that you've created. So we're going to talk about the book today, and you can find more about the book. It's uncommonsuccessbook.com. We'll put everything we talk about in the show notes today. And man, this is a great conversation. I'm super pumped to bring it to you. Before we get to John, be sure to check us out at thatsoberguy.com. You can follow us on Instagram at That Sober Guy Podcast. You can also join us on Locals, be part of the Sober Guy crew. It's kind of like Instagram meets Patreon. You can help support us there. You can be part of a growing sober community that's, number one, safe, which is so important. It'll help you stay accountable, and we all like to have some fun in the process. So I'd love to have you join right now. You can download the Locals app, or you can go to thatsoberguypodcast.locals.com. And also, if you go to the Sober Guy site, you might get a little pop-up there titled How to Navigate the First 90 Days of Sobriety. It's a digital podcast course. If you're struggling, the first 90 days are so crucial. I got together with some friends, some podcasters, some writers, some doctors, and we talked about it. We talked about what we did in the first 90 days, what worked, what didn't work, what we learned. The goal is to help you along the way in your own 90-day journey in those first crucial 30, 60, 90 days. They're so important. We've had a ton of good feedback from the course. If you want to check it out, if it's something that interests you, go to thatsoberguy.com/courses. And I got a little video there that'll give you a little bit more information, and you can go from there. Okay, so we're going to put everything from today's podcast in the show notes as we usually do. John and I had a great conversation in a short period of time. John's a busy dude, so just a shout out to him for coming on the podcast. Appreciate that. I want to tell you a little bit, and I touched on it briefly in the introduction as John and I get going, but I actually found John's podcast in my own struggle just 6 months out of rehab, actually probably 3 months out of rehab at the time. I was commuting. I had just gone back to work. I was trying to find out who the heck I was, trying to figure out how to be this new sober this new sober dude who's like trying to be a father and be married and do all the things and, stay sober at the same time. And I started, my buddy actually told me, he said, hey, why don't you check out podcasts, and he introduced me to the New Man, my buddy Justin, shout out to Moke, man, such a good dude. But he introduced me to Trip Lanier of the New Man podcast, which got me going. And then I found Entrepreneurs on Fire. And I'm like, what is this? And I start checking that out. And I just, man, this is awesome. And it really inspired me, to think bigger and to want to share my story and help serve others and create a platform where others can come on and share their hope, their experience, their inspiration, their struggles, all that stuff. And that's really, was the beginning of That Sober Guy podcast being launched just a couple of months later, I think in April of 2014. And so, to have John back on, or actually to have John on the podcast for the first time, I've had Trip Lanier on a couple of times, and now I get to have John on and talk a little bit about the new book and about what that looks like. And here's some of the things that we discuss in the podcast today. We talk about addiction and alcohol, of course, sobriety, but not only, right out of the gate, John touches on the addiction aspect. It's not just alcohol. A lot of us struggle with food, with shopping, sex is another one, and we don't dive too deep into any one of these in particular. We're just kind of looking at it from more of a broad base. But the point is that we all struggle with something. There's always, there's something that we struggle with, all of us, at one point or another. So we also jump into how to get back up when life knocks you down, how to unlock your creative mind. Like, do you have these, creative ideas? You just don't know how to kind of do with it, conquering fear. And then we propose the thing too, and not to get morbid, but man, we're going to die one day, where it's inevitable, and we don't like to think about that, rightfully so sometimes, but I actually do think about it. And I think about it and I use it as a tool for motivation to really do what I want to do, to inspire other people and to try to live life to the fullest day in and day out. It's like, why not go for it? God has a purpose for all of us. And so, that is why I wanted to bring John on the podcast today, hopefully to inspire you, I know it inspired me, and then we can learn a little bit together along the way, about progress, not perfection. I always love perfection is the enemy of excellence. Had a guy named James Cantor in treatment who would say that. And it always kind of stuck with me today. So I'm really excited to share the podcast with you. I want to say one more time, I hope this inspires you to unlock some of those things that are inside of you. Not just, talking about sobriety and being sober. There's something even down below that. Once we start to defrost and stop using alcohol as a tool to numb out, we start to get to know ourselves. And many of us have something that we're really passionate about, that we love to do, and we love to share with others and make an impact on other people. And I hope this podcast with John Lee Dumas today can help you unlock some of that fire inside of you, to help serve others and to help find what it is that really gives you purpose. So without further ado, here's my friend John Lee Dumas from Entrepreneurs on Fire. I'm excited to bring you my friend John Lee Dumas, otherwise known as JLD. Now, John doesn't know this, but he's inadvertently helped so many of you who listen to the show stay sober, and myself included. And that is because back in 2013, as I was just coming out of rehab on this new sober journey, I started listening to this podcast, Entrepreneur on Fire, which motivated and inspired me. Just a few months later, I created and launched That Sober Guy podcast. So John's got an awesome new book out. I'm currently about 9 chapters deep in. Yes, The Common Path to Uncommon Success. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about more. John, it's great to have you on the podcast today, my friend. How are you?
Shane, I'm fired up because, I just always love when people take inspiration from something that they see in the world and their own area of expertise, their struggles, their obstacles, their challenges, and they go and they create amazing solutions, real value in the world. And you've done just that with your podcast. You've helped so many people. And, not to kind of go too far down a rabbit hole, but every single human being on almost every single level deals with addiction every day. It's just addiction to different things. I just got back from a 17-day wellness retreat. And it was so obvious to me that during my 10-day water fast, which was part of this wellness retreat, that guess what? We as human beings are all addicted to food, and not necessarily in a bad way. Sometimes it's a bad way because you're addicted to sugars, you're addicted to preservatives, to fried foods, to all the crap that's out there. And then, of course, you clog your arteries, you have high cholesterol, your blood pressure's off the charts, and then you die and you have diabetes and all the other things. So addiction's everywhere, man. It's everywhere. It's something we have to battle. There's addictions to gambling, to alcohol, to food, to sex, to fill in the blank. I mean, we're just a species that is drawn towards addiction. Nobody can escape it. Everybody's in its clutches in some way, shape, or form. Again, even if it's just with food, which is a bad addiction in and of itself if you can't control it. And, I just love that there's people like yourself that have identified a specific niche within the broader arc of addiction and are serving people in a massive way. So thank you.
Yeah. Thank you, man. Thank you for pointing that out. It's such a great point. So many different levels of addiction. Food has been a big struggle for me, man. I had a bad addiction to cherry pies, Hostess cherry pies. Are you kidding me? And I cut them out. I haven't had them in quite a few months. So
well, listen, brother, read The Pleasure Trap. It's called The Pleasure Trap after you finish my book, of course, but read The Pleasure Trap. It really cracks your head open on all of these things. But the reason why I did want to bring this up on your show specifically is because, I have met people before who are, alcoholics or who are, addicted to any number of things. And they feel bad they feel like something's wrong with them or something's different about them. No, nothing's different or wrong with you. You're a human being. That's why you're having these urgings and these cravings. Yours just unfortunately happens to be for something that, some people may not have, but that person that you may be like, oh, they're so lucky they're not an alcoholic. Well, guess what? They may be addicted to food and killing themselves even faster than you are. Like that could literally be happening. I mean, frankly, you're both killing yourself if you're, guzzling alcohol and cherry Hostess cakes, whatever your vice may be. Yeah, or for me, by the way, it was Ben and Jerry's, pint after pint after pint. We're all killing ourselves by doing the wrong things to our body, which is an amazing thing. But as you've seen by going through your recovery and what I've seen by going through that 10-day water fast, man, the body is amazing. The body is so forgiving. The body is just waiting for you to give it time, space, just the ability to heal itself. And for me, it was a 10-day water fast. And I saw a total body transformation in 10 days. And it's amazing when you realize that.
Yeah, it's great. And you said it, there's nothing wrong with you. Like that's one of the biggest things, man. We're human beings, nothing wrong with you. That was in Santa Rosa, by the way, right? That's up by my neck of the woods, man. I'm in Northern California, originally from there. So I'm very familiar with Santa Rosa.
Santa Rosa, True North Health Center. You got it, bro.
Yeah. Good stuff, man. Good stuff. Let's dive into the book a little bit. The Common Path to Uncommon Success. I mentioned it. I'm 8 or 9 chapters deep in it. It's been a game changer, man. It's great. And there's so many of us, not just in recovery, but many people, so creative, free thinkers, artists, musicians. We possess this natural entrepreneurial spirit. So the book helps to unlock some of that and create a blueprint around it. I was hoping maybe you dive into it a little bit more for us.
So I launched this podcast, Entrepreneurs on Fire, in 2012. And it's really cool that you came across it just a year later. And we're inspired by it to do amazing things in your world. And over that time, since 2012, I've interviewed over 3,000 of the world's most successful entrepreneurs. I've amassed over 100 million listens of the podcast, over 1.2 million listens every single month of the show. And guess what? I've acquired a lot of knowledge by interviewing the world's most successful entrepreneurs. But that's not what this book is. This book is not my knowledge. This book is not my genius. This book is the genius of those 3,000 successful entrepreneurs that I've interviewed over the past decade and taken their experiences, their successes, their failures, their obstacles, their challenges, their struggles, their solutions, and created a revolutionary 17-step roadmap to financial freedom and fulfillment. So if that's something you're interested in, financial freedom and fulfillment, then this book is for you.
I love it, man. I think one of the big things that people go to, myself, maybe someone out there listening, is I have this great idea, or I have this spirit that I want unlock. But man, it's freaking scary. Like so many of us deal with that fear on any given day. And I know you've dealt with it yourself. So maybe it's fear of quitting alcohol, or maybe it's fear of starting a new business. How do you deal with fear, John?
I look in the mirror and I say, you look like a human being. Oh, wait a second. Yes. No, you are a human being. So flipping relax, dude. Like, what are you so stressed about? You're a human being. Every human being that's ever walked this earth has had doubts, has had fears, has had anxiety, has had stress. It's called, wait for it, being a human being. So when you feel those things, just realize it's because you're a human being. You're not a robot. So that's probably a good thing. Now embrace it and drive forward. And, people are embarrassed by it. People are like, John, I didn't want to tell this to anybody, but like, I'm having some fear and some stress over this. And I'm like, of course you are, because it's new, it's different, it's out of your comfort zone. And when it's out of your comfort zone, it is scary. But guess what? All the magic happens outside of your comfort zone, not inside, outside of your comfort zone. On just like a micro level, every morning I get into a 45-degree cold plunge. That is not comfortable. That is outside of my comfort zone. But I do that every single day. And guess what? When I get out of that cold plunge in 3 minutes, I feel a massive sense of accomplishment. I know I've just done my body a great deed, and my day is better because of it. And it's why it's part of my morning routine. That's just an example of how I physically get out of my comfort zone every single day. I also strive to do that in other areas of my life and business, because all the magic happens outside of your comfort zone. So if you just want to lay on the couch all day and watch Netflix, that's inside of your comfort zone. And as I think you can probably imagine, no magic is happening in that life.
Yeah. Pretty boring, pretty lame, pretty uneventful. And you hit it on the head. Get uncomfortable. Any change comes with getting some sort of uncomfortable. And man, like I can attest to it. John can attest to it. That's where the true growth comes from, when we get uncomfortable and we press through. So with that uncomfortableness, man, we strive forward. We get knocked down. We got to get back up. We don't stay down. We don't stay on the couch. I know you've been knocked down before. You had some struggles even launching the podcast. People told you couldn't do it. It was impossible to have a daily podcast 7 days a week, and you knocked it out of the park, man. So what do you do when you get knocked down?
I say, oh, guess what? I'm a human being. This is part of living life. This is part of the journey. This is called failure. This is called struggles. This is called obstacles and challenges that every single person that gets out of their comfort zone will face. Now, what can I learn from it? What pivots, what adjustments can I make? And then what can I do differently going forward? And how soon can I swing that bat again? And I love that Reid Hoffman quote, the founder of LinkedIn and the PayPal Mafia dude. If you are launching a product that is not very far from perfection, you waited way too long. Like not just too long, way too long. And this is something that I feel very strongly about. And listen, I'm an Army guy of 8 years. I've seen a lot of things. I've seen death. I've seen war. I've seen some really crazy stuff. So I like to say it how it is, because I realize that life can be short. People love this word perfectionism. Oh, John, I'm just a perfectionist. Like I just want things to be perfect. It represents me and my brand. I need it to be perfect before I release it to the world. So number one, nobody's going to see your stuff when you first release it to the world. So nobody's going to care if it's perfect or not, because nobody's going to see it. It takes time to build an audience, to build a niche, to build a following, to build momentum and traction. Number two, you need to substitute the word perfectionism with the word coward. You're not a perfectionist. You are a coward. You're not trying to be perfect. You are being a coward. Just realize that. Next time you say those words, when you're trying to give yourself a little humble brag, guess what? You're not a perfectionist. You're not trying to be perfect. You're just being a coward, plain and simple. And guess what? That's okay. Because being a human being is being fearful, is having doubts. And I was a coward at various times in my life. And this is coming from, a combat war veteran. Like, that's just a reality. Like, there is going to be times when you're going to be a coward, but stop pretending you're something else. Don't pretend that you're a perfectionist. Don't pretend you want things perfect. Just own up to it. Look in the mirror, call yourself what you are, which is a coward. and then decide what to do going forward, which is hopefully take action.
I love it, man. I love it. The cow, man, you're reframing it up there. And we have to do that. It's motivating and it's reality. We need a little blunt straightforwardness nowadays, man. I dig that so much. Thank you for pointing that out. It looks like we got just a minute or two left. So I want to be conscious of your time, man. Once again, thank you so much for coming on. I also want to say thank you for your service, man. We love our veterans. We love our police officers, our first responders. We offer our course, how to navigate the first 90 days of sobriety, for free to all veterans out there. So I want to plug that just and take a moment to do that. If you need help, please reach out. We'll hook you up. Last question for you, John. If there's someone out there right now who's struggling, they don't know where to turn to, they don't know what to do, man, what advice can you give them?
Invest in yourself. And I'm not just talking about money. I'm talking about time. I mean, there's people like myself and like Shane that's out there, who have created the solution to your problem. Shane has a 90-day course. I literally have this book that's $17. Invest in yourself the time that it takes to go through a 17-step roadmap like this. Do the exercises, take the free video course that comes with it, follow the PDF companion guide that goes with it, and take your 17-step roadmap to financial freedom and fulfillment. It's right there for you. That's your next step.
Yeah, it's good. You got to put in the work. John, where's the best place folks can find you? Where can they grab a copy of the book? And we'll be sure to put all these links in the show notes as well.
eofire.com. Podcast is Entrepreneurs on Fire. And I would definitely recommend going to any of your favorite book retailers. Also, uncommonsuccessbook.com.
Got it. John Lee Dumas, thank you so much, sir.
Adios, Shane.
So keep my head on straight. I've been trying to keep my head on straight. I've been trying to keep my head on straight. I've been trying to keep my head on straight. You still say that I don't know anything about you. Oh, I don't know anything about you, but I know what you do in the back room. And you still say that I don't know anything about you. Oh, I don't know anything